me because you have such the like most plain vocabulary at times, and then randomly you pull this one deep out of your pocket.
Overarching isn't that deep.
Overarching is I don't like. I've never heard a person say overarching.
No.
Oh,
when's the last time you were that deep because it's an overarch?
When was the last time you were having a conversation with somebody and they said, you know what I mean? Yeah, no, this really overarches the whole story or the whole spectrum on which
we're talking. I watch a lot of YouTube videos and they kind of, talk like that. So bugger off.
Are they successful YouTube videos?
Yes.
Okay, well then keep overarching away.
They get a lot more views than we do, okay? So just slow your roll.
Listen, Linda.
Listen, Linda.
Our YouTube success and failure hinges solely on your shoulders.
Yep.
So, if you're going to criticize our YouTube, I want you to take a mirror and put it right in your face.
Why do I need a mirror? I can see myself on the screen.
That is very true. Okay, I want you to take a good hard look at yourself and know where you went wrong.
Yeah, but the quality of content is 50-50 here.
Yeah, 50% solid, 50% overarching.
Whatever lets you sleep at night.
It is. So anyone that knows me and anyone that works with me, I'm so critical of that. It's a terrible thing that I have where I'm the first person to call somebody out for misspelling, mispronouncing. It's a thing I do. And I don't mean like grammar calling people out like there. I let that stuff go because I mean, to me, even that's confusing sometimes. It's like super obvious things, right? Like Nissan with 3 S's. Murano was like Murano or was Morana or something like that. I call out that stuff. I got no to my dispatch to anyone in the office. So the downside of that is when you are half awake taking a call, and I've literally had a call from my boss and he's like, hey, I just got a question for you. And I'm thinking, all right, like what's going on? He goes, what's a Toyota? I was like, I'm in the Tim Hortons drive-thru trying to get my coffee, and he's calling me, going like, making it sound super serious. Yeah, what's up? Yeah, no, I'm just curious. What's a Toyota? And I was like, and I'm like, that's fair. That's fair game, right? Like that makes you fair game. If you can,
that's what happens when you are to other people. People will be back to you.
100%. I am a big believer, and you're just bad at giving it. That if you can give it, you need to be able to take it. So when I make those corrections, it's completely fair game when I mess them up too.
One of these days I'll just get sick of it and I'll just say, screw you, PlainGuy. Edit this show yourself.
The band is going to split up. I'll become the towing podcast. You'll become the life podcast. And we will go on our merry way, and you can overarch any idea that you have.
No. Well, no, it's not going to be the life podcast. I'm going to start vlogging about my experiences starting up a farm.
My experience is starting up a farm. You could start up a podcast right now on being a victim of emotional and verbal abuse.
Yeah, I could. It's 2023. That would be a big hit. I would make it sound a lot worse than what it actually was, but it hurt my feelings, so it was like the end of the world to me.
Oh my God, you could go on the news right now being like, and play victim and be the most popular man in the world. That could so quickly make somebody so hated just by saying, if I pull these 5 clips without context.
And I have those saved.
We've got an archive. We've got an archive of me calling you stupid. There is no shortage of those clips to be found. I mean, you just got to listen 5 minutes into every episode and you'll find at least one example normally.
Yeah, not even 5 minutes. Normally it's within the first 35 seconds. You like to beat that bush pretty hard and pretty quick.
You're like the girl that you liked in school, right? Like you pick on them because you like them. Right?
Oh, you like me now. I didn't know you do like you. I guess Robin has some competition.
You're my hoe in a different area code.
And that's why I have 2 phones.
One for the toes, one for the hose.
Yeah.
I don't know if we can. Is hoe acceptable on YouTube definitions?
I don't know.
What if you put a logo of a hoe, like right over my face, just put a picture of a hoe,
Like an actual garden hoe. Yeah.
farming hoe, yeah, garden hoe.
See, I go to the Tractor Supply store so often, and I just like collecting hose there. So I have a phone specific for my hose.
Yeah, well, it's set up on TSC. It gives you notification anytime there's a new hoe that comes out.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's one for the
It's an
hose
app
and
called
one
Find My Hoe.
Find my hoe. I put an air tag on that thing, so I always know where it is.
I write my name on it so everyone else knows it's mine.
I threw it in the closet with the rest of them.
Oh wow, you treat your hose well. I put them in a dusty barn.
Yeah, make sure to lock the barn where you store all your hose.
I run mine through shit almost every day.
There's so many bad ways. Oh, you got work to do on that, but that will be perfectly okay. Let's see how quick YouTube takes that one down.
I've got a problem.
You got a coffee?
Yeah.
Do you have more made?
No. It's cake.
Oh,
It's cake.
oh, just make a pot of coffee like a man.
Yeah. So I got the Keurig for the girlfriend for Christmas or her birthday, and I'm kind of liking it. I've got my Tim Hortons coffee. She's got her McDonald's coffee. It works out all right. But a couple times, I was like, you know what? I'm going to try her McDonald's coffee. So I put a pod in, did that McDonald's coffee, took a sip of it, and I got nothing but grounds. And I didn't really think K-Cups could really do that, so I didn't really think of it. I poured that coffee out, cleaned out the machine, put in one of my Tim Hortons cups because that ruined my try new thing experience for the day. Right? So
Okay.
now I'm taking a coffee to work with me in a little thermos, and I'm packing my own lunches. And the one day I was under tow with a Bell bucket truck on the back, and I had the owner sitting in the back seat or the operator sitting in the back seat, and I'm drinking my coffee, and I once again get nothing but grounds. And now I got grounds all in my mouth with a guy in the back seat doing 80 kilometers an hour down the road. And then, yeah, you don't want to spit it all out because then it's all over your tow truck. So I had to man up and take a swig of water and swish out my mouth and spit some of it out the window. And then whatever was left in my mouth, I just had to put it down the hatch and call her a day and not drink that coffee anymore.
So did you figure out why?
No, I have no idea why. It could be the fact that I'm pushing down the lid too hard, and it's like pushing the hole in the bottom up too much into the little
I
bag.
would actually check that the hole at the bottom where the coffee comes out isn't clogged up a bit, and what's the hot water's going in and back boiling up over the top.
That
I
could
did
be
that
it.
one time where I started my coffee maker without the pot in it.
Yeah.
And there was a safety that if the basket wasn't in, it wouldn't start.
Mm.
There wasn't a safety if the pot wasn't in.
Mm.
So the water brewed into the thing and then
Yeah.
went, it was a mess.
Yeah, that could be it. Now that you think about it.
Now that you think about it? No, I think about it.
Now that you think about it.
Now that I think about it.
Now that you think about it.
Hey everyone, I'm Brad from Calgary.
This is Sean from Cambridge, Ontario.
I'm Terry from Cornwall, Ontario.
Hey, this is Larry from Pitt Meadows, British Columbia, and you're listening to the Towing Life podcast.
Well, we better get the show on the road before I run out of coffee.
Welcome to the Towing Life podcast.
No.
Welcome to the.
No,
welcome
one
to-
more time. Nope.
You done?
Yep.
Welcome to the Towing Life podcast, where the ditches are deep, the trucks are loaded, but the drivers are not. I am your host, TowManG, and as usual, I'm joined by my co-host, friend, and former coworker, the man with very strong opinions, Mr. PlainGuy.
Way to keep it professional. Way to not break character. How are you, G? How are you?
Well, you don't make it very easy to not break character all the time, so I'm doing okay knowing that I can put up with your shenanigans day in and day out.
My goal on every intro when you start into the show is to try and make you laugh or break character in one way or another. If you go back to episodes, I'm doing waves, I'm doing little things. I'm purposely trying to get you to break while you do that so that A, I can either make you start again, or B, it'll just show that you are not this single-voiced, monotoned robot that is doing the intro, but you are actually a boy. You're a real boy, right? We're gonna throw back.
Boy.
I've gotten this complaint over and over again from people: is TowManG just some AI voice, or is he actually a person? He is actually a person. He has feelings, just like all of us. He shows his a lot more. He's more emotional than you would think.
Yeah.
TowManG likes long
feminine side.
Feminine sign. Okay, side.
Yeah.
English is hard.
Yes.
He likes long walks on the beach with his tow truck.
I like the long walks on my farm.
We should create you I know you're happily in a relationship. Well, happily is debatable, but in a relationship.
I'm happily in a relationship, yes.
She's going to hate me. She already does, let's be honest.
Yeah, she does. Her and I both.
I mean, that's what you got. If that's what you share in common, and I'm glad to be a part of this blooming, successful relationship. Yep. But we should set you up with a complete TowManG, stereotypical tow guy dating profile. I like bright, flashy lights. I'm a simple man.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I came into the towing industry, because I like flashy lights.
Ooh, shiny.
Yeah. Pretty much. But unfortunately, my attention span is like, ooh, shiny. Ooh, look, squirrel. And then I'm on to the next thing.
Ooh, more shiny. Yeah, no, I've got a mechanic like that there right now. It's so fun to work with him at the same time. And we're talking, we're doing something on the back of one of our aero pickup trucks, right? We're working away, we're planning stuff out. And he goes, I'm going to change the spark plugs. And I'm like, where did that come from? Well, it's probably due for spark plugs. Okay, maybe, but like we're talking about the bed cover and tool storage, and your brain just goes spark plug.
Is this the guy that you shoved in the trunk?
No, that is a great video. No, that is one of my light duty operators. Oh, okay. we were looking at building a Honda Ridgeline, and people I laughed at Honda Ridgelines for a long time.
Honda Ridgelines are actually very good.
They are pretty sweet. I'm not gonna lie. The more I've driven this thing, the more I like this thing. And anyway, so we were actually planning out how to do tool storage under the bed. There's a big, deep compartment under the bed, and there's a spare tire in there as well. But it's actually on a slide tray, which I might integrate into something. Yes. So we're looking at this. I'm like, man, this is big. And I look over at one of my guys and I go, hey, you're small. Get in there for a second. And so he gets in, I close it, and then he pulls, there's an emergency release. Makes sense. Yeah. And he opens it. I'm like, no, get back in. I want to make a video. And I close them back in, and the Honda Ridgelines have so much space, I can even store my swamper. You don't hear them banging around in the back. But no.
Got to put a seatbelt in there, though, for safety.
Yeah. We're gonna. Well, I mean, we'll just lock the latches. That should be enough. You can't have them bouncing out of there.
Give them a pillow, maybe.
Maybe a pillow, and a reading light or something. The joys of being married pillows. I got a bunch of them back there too. Yeah. The joys of being married pillows. We have no shortage in our household, just like you do. So it is a good time to mention before we get too far into it, and before we actually get onto real towing topics. If you haven't already, be sure to like and subscribe anywhere you listen to your podcast. You can also review us on Apple Music, Spotify, Amazon Music, over on YouTube. Don't forget, drop a comment down below. The thumbs up is there. Any topics, questions, concerns you want covered in the towing industry that we have yet to get to. I mean, a lot of your answers might come in old episodes if you go back and check. If not, be sure to send us a message. You can find us on Facebook at the Towing Life Podcast. You can head over to the website at www.towinglife.ca. Again, you can leave a comment down below on the YouTube, or you can email us at thetowinglife@gmail.com. We always appreciate your input. You listeners are the reason that we continue doing this show week in, week out, and we will continue doing so until numbers drop to such an abysmal rate that it is no longer worth our time and effort.
Ditto.
So
What he
as
said.
long as the numbers keep going up, the show keeps going. So keep that in mind.
So if you don't want to see us again, just don't watch for a couple weeks in a row. Bye-bye. That's it.
That ought to drop us off.
Way to kill our self-confidence, guys.
So every week we talk about different things in the towing industry that either bug us, personal stories that we've had, ideas that are relatable, whatever it may be.
Mm-hmm.
And this week is no different. I want to talk about, actually G wants to talk about. What do you want to talk about?
Well, the overarching story of this episode is going to be professionalism in the industry.
Okay. So how do you help be more professional in the towing industry, or how can you become more professional in the industry?
Well, it's a lot how you carry yourself, and a lot of that comes with experience, because I know when we all start out, I know myself, I would say, oh, sorry, I'm still learning. I'm only a couple months in, which that ruins a bit of your professionalism, unfortunately. It does help that the customer knows that you're going to be a little bit longer and you're trying to do an okay job. But professionalism also comes with confidence. There is a fine line there, because you can be too confident and arrogant and you come off as a bit of a dick, right? So you got to keep that in check. But when you get there, especially like recoveries and winch outs, I find I get out and I start looking and people are, oh, I'll do this, do that, do this, do that. And I'm just quiet and I'm very stoic. And I was like, I've already got a plan in my head and it's not that. And I put a couple of winch lines on, do what I got to do, pull it out, and I say, just as fast as you go in, you're back out. And that's about it. And they're always, well, you've done this a time or two. I was like, yeah, I know. That's why you called me, right?
Well, that's a hard thing, right? And we try and teach that to the new guys coming in. You are right. Confidence is a huge thing. And a customer, don't doubt yourself. A customer will pick up on lack of confidence.
Oh, yeah, big time.
Right? The theory of fake it until you make it really does apply in the towing industry. And I don't mean bullshit your way through every situation, but I recently had a situation with a new driver who got a call to a vehicle with a separated ball joint. He got there, the customer was stating he wanted a wheel lift truck, which we all know is a rarity where a customer says, I want a wheel lift. It's normally the other way around. And he called me up, finally goes, this customer is adamant that he wants a wheel lift. I'm like, he doesn't need a wheel lift. What he needs is an experienced operator. And unfortunately, you aren't one. Like, you're still new. It's fine. So I showed up on scene and right away explained to the customer, here's what we're going to do, right? We're going to jack this up. We're going to put this back in. If we need to, we'll take the tire off so that we don't have to worry about crushing the fender. Surprisingly, this was one of the few ball joints that let go that didn't take the fender. It took the CV axle. It actually didn't take the tie rod. I probably bent the tie rod, but it didn't take the fender. It was on a Ford Edge. So once you walked him through and got it, we're also going to winch our truck backwards underneath the vehicle so that your vehicle has to travel the least amount of distance. Like, everything is going to go smooth and easy. Okay. All of a sudden, the customer is fine without a wheel lift truck. Why? Because that confidence is there. Right. But this new guy who, hadn't encountered that situation before, wasn't told that it was a ball joint when we originally sent him out. It was a tie rod issue, and tie rods are easy. Right. Like, we got remote winches. You just sit there and straighten that, hold that one tire and maneuver it as you go up.
The winch really makes your life so much easier on calls like that. Like the remote.
You mean the remote?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. 100%. So, but that's it. Confidence. But there is, so, you tell operators like this, they don't know what you're doing. So if you can be confident in what you're doing, that will go a long way with the customer. But again, try not to overshoot it, right? Do not show up on scene as a 3-month rookie to a customer and God, don't worry. No, I'm not going to listen to you. I'm not going to, I know what I'm doing, because you don't know, right? A lot of customers want to be tow truck operators, but some of them actually were. And some of them will actually give you some advice. right? So know that fine line on confidence and professionalism when dealing with your customer.
Yep.
But professionalism goes a lot farther than that. It's not just the confidence, it's how you speak
Yep.
to your customer. You know, I see there's things that hurt me is that I see a lot of good videos out there on the internet. I seen one recently. I wish I knew it was from. It seems to be a gentleman who posts quite often of a guy trying to unload a truck with turned wheels in a parking lot.
Mm.
I really wish I remembered the poster and who it was, because I'd gone through and checked his channel, and I'm watching him, and it was really good. These two operators took the time to teach this guy who was struggling with this truck.
Mm-hmm.
Right, you couldn't understand the concept of driving forward and turning your truck at the same time, so the wheels would come off nice.
Yeah, as long as your bed's up off the ground an inch.
Yeah, exactly. So they really did take their time, right? We talked about it last week. Quick to criticize, not quick to help.
Yep.
Well, these guys took the time to help. But what bugged me through the whole time of it was I'm looking at how unprofessional the operators look.
Mm.
Meaning, you're going to get dirty on this job. I get it.
Yep.
It shouldn't look like your shirt hasn't been washed in a month.
Yeah.
Maybe you just had a bad day. I'll let that go. Right? Jeans. You Southerners, and I don't mean just Southerners, I mean anyone south of the Canadian border, love your denim jeans. Everywhere you see on an American tower is high-vis shirt and denim jeans.
Yep.
It's I don't know what it is. You guys complain it's too hot and you wear denim.
Hey, I've been there. I've been that operator. I've been denim jeans, and a plaid shirt.
Okay. That is where I talk about professionalism. It's because wearing denim jeans and a filthy shirt. Kind of looks like the clothing you wore when we went to the tow show, for Christ's sakes. You didn't have clean clothes. Uniforms go a long way. And I'm not talking that you have to be super fancy and over the top uniforms, right? Like, we're not talking, full 3-piece. We've gone a little bit overboard just with our situation. This is the goal. This is what we were looking for.
Mm-hmm.
But just being uniform driver to driver to driver, right? We worked at a company where you would have one driver with a black shirt with all the green reflective. You'd have another one with a yellow shirt with the orange and the reflective in it. You'd have, if it wasn't for the name on the door, customers don't know who you are.
Yeah.
And nobody looks the same. We took a group photo one time, just, we were in the office, and it was just so good to see everyone with standardized clothing, right? And it wasn't crazy. It's a hoodie with the reflective striping, with the logo, but everyone wearing the same. Not one guy wearing green, one guy wearing orange, one guy wearing blue, one guy wearing the same. It goes when you show up to that customer, it's not who is this guy. When you're in a crowd at a wreck, because there's EMS on scene, there's fire on scene, there's police on scene, there's the customer's family on scene, there's everybody. It's not who's this guy.
Yeah.
It's clearly identified. That level of professionalism that we can bring to the industry, right? Pulling up into someone's driveway and seeing somebody that's cleanly dressed with a, somewhat of a uniform, right? Like I said,
you knock on their door and they come to the door and they're like, oh, they don't know who you are, but you open the door and you're wearing your uniform. Oh, Bill's towing. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You're here to tow my
exactly.
Yeah.
You're here to tow my 92 Honda Civic.
Yeah.
Normally, right, a lot of guys will complain, well, as soon as they open the door, they see the tow truck or they call me, they know I'm coming. I get that.
Yeah.
But you look at other industries that go, even that go to people's homes, plumbers, electricians, a lot of times they'll be wearing, right, their pants, the belt with a company shirt.
Yeah, they got their name tag and the company name, normally.
I'm not so much for name tags on uniforms, and the only reason that I stay away from that is because if you do see high turnover rates, what the towing industry tends to do, a name tag just eliminate, either you're sewing it off.
There's a lot of different options you can get. Like the company I work for, they sub all that out, so I don't have to pay anything for my uniform. But when I leave, I have to return the uniform.
Yeah, it's the uniform cleaning companies and rental companies.
Yeah. So that's one way you could do it. You could also buy all your. Thanks for muting your mic. You could also buy all your uniforms from a supplier that are customized, and the employees have to pay for it. I'm not such a big fan on that. Now, granted, when you leave, you get to keep that, I'm assuming. So that's your articles of clothing. And now, as long as it's good quality stuff that you're making your employees buy, then I don't really have an issue with that. The shirts that I've been provided, I like collared shirts. I'm just a collared shirt kind of guy, but they're short sleeves, and I've got a strip along the arm here. So when you try to wipe sweat off your brow, you get scratched by it. So I absolutely don't wear them because when you do that, it gets tight here and it's just, they don't fit nice. And it's not just because I'm a bigger guy. We got a couple of different bigger guys working in this company, and no one wears the shirts. None of the bigger people wear these shirts because they just don't fit. Some of the smaller guys will wear these shirts, and I would love to be uniformed with them. I wear the pants. I really like the work pants that are provided. But unfortunately, 50% of the employees at this company don't like the attire that is provided. So then you run into this issue where you've got mismatched clothing. And yes, the professionalism does go down.
Well, and I think that's where it's important whenever you're coming up with this uniform stuff to have active conversations with your employees, to order samples, to try them out, to see what is the pros and the cons. You're right. I know what you're talking about on the sleeve. I mean, just because it scratches you on the sleeve, then don't wipe it with your sleeve, right? Like, that's kind of a shit excuse, but at the same time, I get where you're coming from, right? It's our system. What we do is the employee pays 50%. The employee still keeps it after.
Yeah.
But I feel a lot less bad seeing my clothing running around town after if an employee's left, knowing that I didn't pay the full pop for it.
Yep.
Right? It adds a certain bit of responsibility on both parties. Right? Should the employee pay for it all? Well, that's a debate. Some people agree with that. Sure. But this way, because let's be honest, an employee paying for all of a uniform will ensure that they take a little better care for it. Right? We've seen that across the industry as a whole. If you don't have a financial investment into something, right? And I'm not talking, there's always that exception. But for the most part, the operators coming through, if they don't have a financial incentive or a financial investment into it, they don't give a shit. Right? If they don't pay if you're buying them brand new impacts and they don't pay for them, you're going to lose or break that impact a lot more than if he just went out and bought it. So it's finding that happy balance in those kind of things.
Well, you also got to think about it this way, and we're getting a little off track, which I don't really want to, but when someone joins your team, what do they already have to buy? Normally, sometimes you have guys where they haven't really been working for a month or two. Their finances are not in great situations, and they come in, okay, you got to buy a lockout kit, right? Because that's not normally supplied. If you want to make your life easier, you're going to get an impact gun, right? But that's not something that you need to get right away, and you need to pay X amount of dollars for a uniform, right? So majority of tow companies, I'm not saying yours specifically or mine, you're looking at, if you want to do your job professionally and efficiently, which I'm a big believer of, it's going to take me a while to pay off this impact gun, and I don't trust myself to keep that in good nick bouncing around in the tow truck, so I just don't personally use one, right? So that's my own belief in that.
Yeah, and you can still change a tire professionally and efficiently without an impact gun.
Exactly.
Let's not kid ourselves.
You're looking at a $500 impact. You're looking at probably $200 worth of lockout kit, because I'm not sure how much money those bars are anymore, but it's probably not cheap.
No, they're going up.
And uniforms, which could be anywhere from, call another $200, right? So you're looking at about a $900 investment to get in to be that professional looking tow operator that's on par with the majority of other operators out there. That's like your first paycheck.
You can do this. You got 2 weeks at least of training.
Yeah.
So you do not need, it's not like day one you're showing up with this.
Yeah.
Right? Like day one, first of all, lockout kits should be provided.
Yeah.
If the company, right, I've always been a big believer, the truck should be equipped with everything required to do the job. If you want to make it more efficient, then, you know what I mean? If you want a fancy tool,
a long bar or a Slim Jim, or
I supply all of my trucks with airbags, wedges, long bar, noose tool, sully strips, pretty much a full lockout kit, because I expect them to do the lockout and I want them to do it damage free. Because if they don't do it damage free, it's going to cost me. So why would I give them subpar tools to do the job? Right? Booster packs, because we supply the booster packs. We've talked about the booster packs, the no-coats. I put an air tag on all of them. That way we know which truck and which unit, and if they leave it behind, which I've had an operator do, I don't know how. we can track it and figure out where it is.
Yeah.
So yes, as for that, like I said, the lockout tool should definitely be included. Impact guns, no, that's go get your own. We actually had a conversation with operators recently. They said, hey, would you ever think of supplying impact guns? And I said, absolutely, when you guys stop losing T-bars every month.
Yeah.
Because you can't keep a tire iron in your truck. I don't really think you're going to keep an impact gun.
Yeah.
So, right, all these things. So uniforms, like our uniforms come up to about $300, I believe, would be the employee side. And that is for a full 555 set, which is an over work shirt, pants, and an a dry fit undershirt.
Yep.
Because we understand that the button-up shirts that we run can get a little warm.
Yep.
So instead of having them and we want t-shirts. I don't want no Fabio with their chest hair just blooming out of the work. Out of the work shirt. So no, we'll get you these dry fit. We found reasonable pricing for good material, right? Like that's where management and ownership have to step up, and it's not just, okay, yeah, we're doing this, and it's going to be $1,000, and you got to
eat that to the employee. Yeah.
Exactly. You got to work with your employees and find a happy balance. But so, we talked about that. Uniforms. We talk about confidence and ways in which you speak to the customer, right? Cleanup and different things. When it comes to doing your job is not just dragging the car and leaving, right? The towing industry is so much more than that. If you want to be on that higher standard, who does the cleanup on the scene, right? Sweep your stuff up, get garbage bags. Keep a roll of garbage bags in the toolbox. You get a wreck, you lay some absorbent down. If you're looking for good absorbent, you should really try Spill Tackle. I'm telling you, this stuff is phenomenal on a wreck. Side note. But no, you clean up the absorbent, everything goes into a garbage bag. It doesn't just get shoveled into the back seat of a customer's car. I don't care if that thing's wrecked or not. Put it in a bag. Bag gets put up on the bed. I don't mind putting a garbage bag in the customer's trunk. I think that is a fair place because here's all the rest of your car.
Yeah.
Right?
Fluid and all.
Yeah. Fluid and all. This is all yours.
Yeah.
But so many times you see that where it's just, I'm going to grab the bumper, right? Because that's a major piece sitting there. And then I'm just going to sweep the rest off to the side, or I'm not even going to sweep it. Or like police in our area have called operators back to scene to perform a cleanup. I remember getting called back to a scene when we worked together. It wasn't with you, but I mean, it was glass. And we swept and swept and swept and swept. But as soon as the sun went down and the headlights hit it, it looked, the reflection. But it's like you can only get so much out of this paved road, like, short of a power sweeper, which maybe that's something you invest in.
Yeah. I've had it a couple of times where you spend a long time doing the wreck and you normally get tired at the end, which is fair. That's valid. It's depending on your situation. It's not an easy job doing the recovery, right? And then you get into the cleanup part, and you're normally kind of fatigued at that time, but it's still another aspect of your job that has to get done. And there is no better feeling when an officer or the fire chief comes up to you and is like, you did a good job with that, right? Now, regardless, like I've had a couple of bad wrecks that are on bends. A couple of them were fatalities, and there's just stuff everywhere. You try to sweep up, you throw down as much Absorbol as you can, but unfortunately, that Absorbol has to sit on the road to actually get this stuff out of the pavement, right? So we've gone and said to...
Not with Spill Tackle.
We've gone to the police and said, okay, like, we're on a bend. This needs to sit here for a little while unless you want stains and smell in your road. Like the one time I had a dump truck and it pissed out both full tanks of diesel and it just sat on the road. And unfortunately, we couldn't get into it. And the fire department wasn't equipped enough to where that soaked into the pavement and you could smell diesel there for 3 months after the wreck, which is just not great, right?
Yeah.
And we've called and we said, okay, we've done everything that we can do. How long can you leave the road shut down to make the best results here? Or do you mind, like we've taken all the used Absorbol out and we put that in bags and we put that in trucks, but this is fresh stuff to try to like really soak up the stains. Do you want to call the fire department and come get this a spray down and let that sit? Yep, sure, no problem, right? So that's another tool that you might have that you just don't think of.
Yeah, absolutely. Doing cleanups and doing that kind of stuff, like situation you're into, you really got to watch out because you're almost getting borderline into environmental, especially when it comes to disposing of the product.
Yep.
That you've got to watch for depending on how much was actually there. But no, it's that kind of stuff, and that situation there that you even talk about goes into another thing: scene management. right? These are all ways to help up the professionalism in the industry and things that we are lacking. Scene management is one of the most important things if you want to be recognized by law enforcement, fire departments, if you want to be recognized from emergency and first responders. How you manage a scene, it goes a long way. If it's just Joe and Bob are running around grabbing chains and there's no structure, there's no plan, they're crossing over, they're confused, they're running into each other, they're tripping over each other. Scene management is huge. You want to up your your professionalism. English is hard. Start looking at some scene management situations and ways that you can do things, right? We have the first truck that we get called for ours. When he gets there, it's normally his scene.
Yeah.
His job is to, all right, what's rule number 1? If it's a 2-car accident, you got 2 trucks coming, first truck pulls up, you are grabbing the vehicle that is blocking a lane. If they are both blocking the lane, you are taking the one that's got the biggest priority if you need one out of the way to get access to the other. That is your first job. If you get there, one's up on the sidewalk and one's in the middle of the road, your job is to get that one out of the middle of the road. Yeah. I don't care if you're in a flatbed and there's a wheel lift coming and that's an all-wheel drive, the road clear is the first priority. Yeah. Once you get that road clear, get the second vehicle, they come together, they start working on cleanup, right? One guy, while he's winching out his vehicle, the second guy's starting to clean up scene. Right, that kind of scene management and having that control. I have worked on different scenes. I have worked on scenes that are ours, and I have worked on scenes that are other companies. And now I will not judge the company because they are doing what the best they can. That is what their setup is. Yeah. But let me tell you, do you ever see a difference? Yeah. Right, everybody's got a job. Everybody's got something to do. Right, scene management doesn't change. It does and it doesn't. When you go from light duty to heavy duty, it's the same thing. It's just a bigger scene. Yep. But having that, okay, everybody has a job and this is the order, and having a meeting, right? Heavy wrecks, tailgate meetings are one of the most important thing I've ever seen at a heavy wreck. Yep. Right? All the trucks pull up, everybody's ready to go. Okay, tailgate meeting. All right, this is the plan. We are pulling from here. We are doing this. Okay, while we're doing this, Joe, you're on the cleanup side of this. I want you to start with that. Bob, I want you to go out and, you're going to be doing this. Everybody has a plan. When that's done,
Jimmy's going for coffee for all of us.
Jimmy's going the coffee run. God damn it, Jimmy. You forgot the coffee again. But
decent, Jimmy, decent.
It's scene management where you see guys where trucks just pull up and guys start running lines and there's a car in the way and then, he's tripping over this bumper that's here. It's like, okay, well, that scene is yours. When the investigation is over, when the police work is over, that scene is yours. Own it. Have talks with your guys, have situational training, right? All those things can really help when the first responders, the real first responders, look at your company and look at the industry and go, hey, look, these guys are structured similar to us. Have a chain of command. Yeah. Whether that be the most experienced operator on scene is the lead, or whether that be a designated lead at a scene, in our situation, normally the first truck. Yep. Right, he becomes the lead. It's his scene to control. Even myself with experience, unless I see him doing something wrong, I'm going to pull up. What do you need? Yep. This is your scene. Yep. We need to get this car onto here. All right, let's go. Let's get this car onto here.
I think one of the biggest issues with that, like, it sounds like a perfect system, and it is, right? Pretty as close to perfect as we can get in this industry, because nothing's ever perfect and nothing ever goes quite according to plan. But for drivers who are in smaller companies, I'm saying like under 10 drivers, it's pretty hard to actually get the time to have a driver's meeting, normally at an office that's not on a big wreck, and go over the structure. Now, you could probably do that during the hiring process, during training, because you have more time one-on-one with your guys. But to get all your workers, all your drivers together and actually have a meeting and sit down and plan out, okay, this is what we're going to do in a situation like this. And it's going to be like a blanket coverage because you're not going to be able to go over every situation. But we don't make time for stuff like that. And I think some of the bigger companies out there that actually have the manpower to do that is one of the reasons why they're successful, is because they have the plan going into things.
But saying that they're successful because they have the manpower to do it, I got to kind of have a wake up call for you here. If they have the manpower, it's because they have the call volume. They're no different on a call volume ratio than you are, right? Because it's not like you have all this manpower, therefore you can have everybody at the shop. Doesn't work that way. Or you still have the same amount of percentage of guys doing calls.
That's not what I was talking about. Like, I worded that wrong. I do
Okay.
apologize.
I'll let you try again.
So I find that the smaller companies don't take, they can, but I find a lot of companies that I've worked for, they don't take the time to do that, because normally it's just one guy on scene, two guys on scene, right? Like, we don't have these normally big massive wrecks that take a lot of cleanup, but then the time that you do have 3-4 trucks on scene,
You're unprepared and
you're
chaos.
unprepared and you're not quite sure. And a lot of times the guy who gets there, who puts himself in charge, right, regardless if he's first or last there, might have different ideas, and no one's before planned ahead and say, okay, in a situation like this, we're going to put Bill in charge because he's got 20 years experience and he knows what the hell he's doing, right?
Mhm.
So I get a lot of the new guys want to take that step up and try to lead and learn those skills that are needed to actually grow in the industry, and that's fine, but that's something that needs to be discussed before you're actually there. Because when you're there and you're trying to have those discussions, which normally turn into arguments on the side of the road, isn't a great place to have them, right? Because
Well,
it only hurts your professionalism.
the only reason that those conversations would be hard to have or turn into fights on the side of the road is because ego gets involved.
Yeah.
Right? That's the only reason that should be an issue, is ego gets involved.
Mhm.
Right? I have been on many scenes where the guy who's running the scene, right? I'm giving him, it's his scene.
Mhm.
I don't agree with how he's doing it. Right? It's still one of the 100 right ways. It's not the way I would do it.
Yeah.
You do it. You do it. You get it done, because it's going to take more time to sit, explain why, come up with a new plan than to do his way. His way is not going to hurt anybody. It's not going to hurt anything. It's just there might be a more efficient way.
Mhm.
And then you talk about it after.
Yeah.
Right? That is one of the most, like, debrief after. No one does that. That is one of the biggest problems. It's not about having a preset plan.
Mhm.
You should have a preset structure, which is very easy to put out in a memo, right? Scene coordinator, on scene, first truck, most experience, whatever you choose, right? First priority, live lane. Second priority, vehicle. Third priority, cleanup, right? And explain that to your guys. This isn't a 4-hour meeting that you need to have.
Mhm.
You can lay the groundwork very quickly and very easily. After a wreck, we do this all the time. We recently had one.
Mhm.
I sat down with somebody with a lot more experience than I did, and I said, how would we have done that differently? And we got talking, right? It was a 5 to 10 minute conversation. I would have maybe brought it up on this side, but then that would have gotten in the way of the cleanup. See, we were able to do the cleanup while we were working on the load. And you know what I mean? You have that talk. Debriefing is huge.
Yeah. What would you do differently?
Because it's only in those moments of debriefing that you can really criticize and come up with plans on how you do different so that you can execute the next time.
Mhm.
Right? How many times have you done that? You do a rollover, you go, you sit after and you go, could have done that different.
Yeah.
Have that conversation. Have that conversation out loud with all the parties involved.
Mhm.
Right? We did this wreck. This is what happened. 2-car MVC. If it was my choice, you know what? We probably would have maybe swung this one around, loaded it frontwards, and have the conversation, because that's the time to argue.
Mhm.
If you want to argue about it, that's the time to argue. After the dust is settled, after the cars are being, even while they're being unloaded, and come up with a plan on how you would have done that differently. That is the only way to learn. If you don't take that time, you talk about companies, smaller companies with under 10 employees don't take the time to do that. No, they don't. And a lot of times it's stuff like that. It's little things like that that can really hinder your future and your growth.
Mhm.
Because if you want to take the next step up, you cannot. When will this industry learn that you can't keep doing what you did 20 years ago?
Yeah.
The industry is changing, and that comes with recovery techniques. That comes with all this stuff. It's not just, no, we've been doing it for 20 years. We've never needed a scene coordinator, or we've never needed to lay out a policy.
Mhm.
Okay, great. Times are changing. Would it hurt you to do it? Would it cause problems? No, probably not. You might have your hiccups, your learning curves, like you would with any sort of change.
Mhm.
But take those steps, and that's all this stuff that, again, brings up the professionalism in the industry.
Yeah. Well, it's a simple example with the electric vehicles on the rise and the fire hazard that comes along with it. What's your plan if you get a Tesla that's half burnt, and knowing that they can recatch 3 days after the actual wreck? What's your plan to that? If you're like, oh, I don't know, I'll just deal with it when it comes. that's okay, but that's not sustainable, because what if you decide to put that in your shop and it does catch on fire, right?
Well, yeah, no electric vehicles should be stored in a shop. Let's be adamant about that. I've got a Chevy Volt sitting in my back 40 right now that took rear end, heavy enough rear end damage. The batteries are actually in front of the back tires, but it was heavy enough damage that there was a concern. There was no fire, right? It didn't happen, but the manufacturer recommends that vehicle be isolated 50 feet in all directions around it.
Yeah.
So that vehicle is sitting out in the back 40 and being built accordingly. Right? Let's not forget about that. 50 feet is 10 spots to the left, 10 spots to the right.
Yeah.
10 and all the room behind it and everything else. I'm not charging. We can't charge for all 10 spots. There's ways to incorporate billing, and that is something that one day we will get into when it comes to invoicing. But no, it's, you know, again, that's professionalism. It's being equipped and being prepared and having plans for situations like I said that are coming, right? Electric vehicles have kind of caught everyone off guard. Right, the more and more we learn, the more their concerns get training. Again, hey, anyone listening up in the Canada side, GM and OnStar, I believe they're offering it in the States as well, is offering free electric vehicle emergency responder training for fire, tow trucks, EMS, shutdown procedures, safety procedures, everything like that. Go online and find it. It's a half-day course on free training, and you know, training is always good, whether you agree with it or disagree with it. It's something that is needed in the industry. It's part of moving forward. Training is another way to increase professionalism. There's so many ways to do this. You know, bite one at a time, take one at a time. Okay, well, this week we're going to work on this. Let's get this down. I'm so tired. Like I said, that video, and that's what bugged me about that video, was the professionalism of the driver. Right, just in his t-shirt, in his, like, it was a lot of uniform that bugged me about it, but it really brought up a lot of feelings.
Did you know if he was even working? He could have just been on his own time. And
no, this was the operator that was operating the truck.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there was two other gentlemen, one who was filming and educating, and another gentleman who was just educating. I didn't notice the one gentleman that was on camera that was educating. I couldn't remember what he was wearing specifically. I only remember, right? Same thing, haircut. Like, personal hygiene is important, right? And I get it. It's a dirty job. You can be ugly and still take care of yourself. Let me put that out there. You can be ugly and still personally groom yourself. For the people in the back, you can be ugly and still have personal hygiene. Right? I think that is something that they seem to go goddamn hand in hand. Where, you know what I mean? Like, fucking hair's all over and this and that. And it's like, holy shit. Like, you know, clean up a bit. Maybe you don't have the highest self-confidence. That's fine. But, like, at least run a comb through your hair. Put a hat on. For the love of God, hats are wonderful. Keep
Why
your
do you
head
think we're both wearing hats?
You will rarely see me without a hat.
Yeah.
You will unless it's a funeral or a wedding, I'm wearing a hat. And sometimes I'm still wearing the hat.
Yeah, weddings you can wear hats. It's just funerals, and when you walk into a Legion, I think you're supposed to take your hat off.
Yes, Legions, you're supposed to remove your hats. I don't know if weddings, it depends on the wedding, chum.
I've always wore a hat at weddings.
Maybe the weddings up in your way where they're normally related in one way or another, hats become acceptable. I can understand that.
Well, when the weddings happen in a barn, then yes.
When the weddings,
that's a new fad. Doing barn weddings.
That's not new.
Yeah,
I don't know if a barn wedding would be new. I think it's becoming more mainstream, where it used to just be the Hicks, and now it's the Gen Zs and with their pronouns. I feel like there's like your pronouns go to shit when you walk into a barn. I don't know if I want to have the pronoun conversation right now.
No, let's move on. Let's keep it professional, you know.
Listen to my young co-host and his concerns.
Yeah, I am kind of concerned because it's a touchy topic. So let's just move on. Dispatching. Okay. Dispatching is another great way to improve your professionalism, because that's normally the first experience a customer has with you. And if that dispatcher, I get it, we all have bad days, but if that dispatcher is short, not compassionate, not understanding, like I've always said, idiots sign my paycheck, right? And that's true. People do weird things sometime, and that makes my job normally harder, but that's the reason why I have a job in the first place, right? That's the reason why I like doing this job, is because it makes me think. Dispatchers, it's an office job to them. So they don't get the fun side of towing that often. They just deal with people. And unfortunately, a lot of times people don't like other people, right? So having a dispatcher that is trained well to be able to communicate well, I wouldn't be a great dispatcher. I don't have great communication skills.
Oh God, I can only imagine you as a dispatcher.
But getting all the correct information to be able to send out the correct truck, correct equipment, or the correct driver for their situation, so they don't have to be there sitting in a one of their worst days of their life, depending, and a driver shows up, say, sorry, I'm not equipped to do this, let me wait, you got to wait another hour to get another truck, right? That's a big thing. That could be that the operator's not well enough trained, but anyways, having a dispatcher that knows the ins and outs and what truck to send to what call to make it efficient and the best possible scenario, being able to be compassionate and understanding, even if it's something stupid that that person did to themselves.
Let's take a second to talk dispatching. Call taking and dispatching is a vital part of the towing industry. That's where Live Dial 24 comes in. With live 24/7 call answering services, Live Dial 24 has your back. Your customers are in good hands. Their team of professional, upbeat, enthusiastic, friendly customer service experts are ready to impress you and your callers around the clock. The best part? They are so good at what they do, both you and your customer will swear they're in the office with you. Unlike other call answering services, Live Dial 24 is a pay-as-you-go service with no contracts or minimums, meaning you only pay for what you need. To book your free consultation, visit them at www.livedial24.com. That's livedial24.com.
Reinsurance, saying one of the things I always do when I unlock people's cars is, oh, I'm so stupid. They say, it's like, I do this all the time. I've locked my own keys in the tow truck. It happens. That's why I'm here, right? And
I
that,
don't respond to that with, yes, you are.
so it's just little things like that that builds a rapport with that customer, right? And dispatching is the first chance to do that, right? And that sets your professionalism for the whole company, not just you and your customer as a driver. If they do a shoddy job, the dispatcher does a shoddy job dealing with the customer to begin with, you're going to have a bad time because now you got to try to make up for what your poor dispatching did.
No, 100%. Dispatching is, you're right, the front line, right? That's what it comes down to, is the front line.
Mm-hmm.
They are going to take the shit, they are going to take the good, they're going to take the bad, and they can make a good situation bad and a bad situation good.
Yep.
Right? Just like operators can, they're the second line.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, right. When it comes to dispatching, consistency. Consistency is key. Pricing, right? Dispatching comes down to a lot of pricing too, and quoting.
Mm-hmm.
Being consistent with your rates is important.
Mm-hmm.
Dealing with the customers. I am the first guy to tell you my customer service level drops at 2 a.m. Right? When they call at 3 o'clock in the morning, I've listened back to the recordings. Ooh, they make me cringe a little bit sometimes, and I don't fully remember the conversations, in my defense. But no, that's a huge part of it, is having your, being able to communicate well. Mm-hmm. Not just putting anybody who's willing to answer a phone on the dispatch, right? Empathy, you're right, is huge. And monitoring. You don't have to micromanage, but you need to monitor these situations, right? It's one thing just to send them out and go, okay, cool. How many companies have listened into their dispatcher? You and I worked for a company. How many times do you think there was actually a listened into any of those conversations? Do we know what kind of job they were actually doing? No.
They could change the way they do their job if there's someone sitting in that office with them.
So how do you improve if you don't actually know what's currently happening? Right? So recorded lines is a great way to do it. Right? Recorded lines. Trust me, I know my lines are recorded. Doesn't change how I talk to people. I mean, again, my customer service drops at a certain point. When fatigue and everything else sets in. But yeah, so there's all these kind of ways your dispatcher needs to be on top of it. An operator can compensate for a bad dispatcher. A bad dispatcher can compensate for a bad operator. Right? They are they work in unison. But whenever what was the thing you said where it's like they don't get to have any of the fun of towing? Oh, you talk to any dispatcher and they will tell you the fun that they have. They have their own share of stories. Do not think that they are without story. They get a phenomenal amount of stories that come through their desk. So yes, all these ways, right? Uniforms, scene management, cleanup, dispatching, having a proper, structure on everything. Structure is huge. I hated policies coming up in the industry. Hated them. Every time you do this, you need to do this. That's bull. Oh my God, it actually makes sense. And it isn't without years of making mistakes until you can realize where to find, how you can find ways to improve. You got to make the mistake. Don't get me wrong. You got to make the mistake, but take it from people that have made the mistake before. Sometimes there's an easier way, right? Like you always watch your new guy and you go, would you not do that? And then you go, I did that.
Yeah.
I just wish you'd listen to me and not do it, because trust me, I've been down this road and it doesn't end well. Instead of just doing it yourself and waiting, me sitting here going, all right, well, let's watch him make this one again.
But you can't always blame your dispatchers. Like I've had, especially with like medium duty recoveries, people always say it's a lot worse than what it actually is. Or a lot of times they say it's a lot easier than what it actually is. I know with the roadsides, it's only 10 feet away from the roadside. Like, it's super easy. It'll be nice and quick. And you get there and it's 300 feet out in the field. But like I had a situation, it was a medium duty winch out. It was a high ab truck down in the ditch. He said, send a big truck, send a big truck. I need something that will extend out and pick up the whole back end of my truck and be able to put it back out on the driveway. My dispatcher said, well, I don't have, let me make sure a driver can call you and they'll figure it out, right? So I called the guy. I was like, I'm just getting fuel. Tell you what, I'll come out and I'll access. If I can do it, great. If not, I'm not going to charge you, and I'll be able to point you in the right direction to get a truck out that's able to do it. Because at the end of the day, if I can't do it, I'm still keeping that customer happy because I can provide a service for him later, whether that's an unlock out of his truck or a tow, because I can tow it. But a lot of times, depending on your size, you might not be able to recover it out of that situation. And then I can also give the heavy operators that I'm affiliated with more work instead of letting that guy choose for himself and maybe pick not such a great company to come out and do it. I was able to get out there, did the job, and since did the job, I could be compensated accordingly because it's a decent paying job, especially when you get into the medium duty recoveries, heavy duty recoveries. You can charge a lot of money for it, and the customer was happy. So the dispatcher didn't know if we could do it or not, nor did I going to it, but I still made the attempt to keep the customer happy regardless.
No, and we've done that a ton where, you send out a truck to assess it, whether it be a truck or whether it just be one of our, coordinators or something. Hey, we're going to go take a look at this, see if it's something that's doable. Yeah, it's doable. Send this. Yeah. Right? No, 100%. And guys are so quick. My biggest pet peeve is operators that you give them the bare minimum details, right? They get the address, the vehicle, the whatever, and they're already, I'm not going to be able to do that.
Right.
Shut up. I'm not going to be able to do that. You don't even know. You haven't even been there yet. If you go there with the attitude of I'm not going to be able to do that, you ain't going to do it.
Yeah.
Right. A lot of times that's just laziness. That's just, fatigue, whatever it might be. Going, yeah, I'm not going to be able to do that. It's like, would you go? Would you go? And then if you get there and you honestly tell me that you can't do that, okay, we'll have that conversation then.
Mm-hmm.
But 10 years experience says that you can.
Yeah. You've probably dealt with that situation a couple too many times before, and you know that you can do it, but it's a pain.
Yeah. Or they're the ones that are talking the customer out of using them.
Yeah.
Right. Like instead of the opposite of having the confidence to be able to put the customer's mind at ease. No, you'd be much better off with a flatbed. Yeah. And it's like, no, you wouldn't. Would you stop doing that? Like, you guys are killing the industry. You're killing the professionals. Get your job done that you've been told to get done and move on.
Unless it's unsafe for you to do, then do it.
Absolutely. Safety above all. Yeah. Safety above all is very important. If you can't do it safely, don't do it. If you need to work, to get somebody else in there to help you out to whatever it is, don't be afraid to call for it. At the end of the day, we want everybody going home safely. And don't break shit. Yeah. Just don't let your ego get in the way. Don't break shit just because you have a point to prove. Think clear, think smart, right? So at the end of the day, everything that we've gone over, what was the word we're using today? Overarching?
Yeah. The overarching motto of this episode was professionalism.
It's professionalism. Do your part. think of plans that you can come up with. Look at uniform options, hierarchy on scene, whether, scene management. Make sure the guys are clear on what the wreck cleanup should involve. As an operator, if none of this is in your company, go take the time to have a talk and see if you can set some of this up, right?
If you want to be invested into this company that you work for and you might want to make a life out of it, do your absolute best. You might get a little flack because, you're the new guy, you're just trying to change the way you do things.
I've been through that.
But just have a sit down and say, okay, well, what are the pros and cons to actually doing things and trying new things?
Yeah. There's nothing worse than a crazy overachiever that you've have come in, and you definitely don't want to come across that guy. We've seen that a million times. We've worked with that. The $1 Million Man was one of those, where this and this and this and this, and it's like, okay, whoa, cowboy, let's take it down a little bit of a notch. But absolutely,
don't be doing it within the first 3 weeks of being there. Give it a year. See how things work out.
Ask questions.
Yeah.
Right? Ask questions, come up with plans, work with people within your company. At the end of the day, we are all trying to do one thing, and that is bring the towing industry to a new level, and a level that is respected among, similar employees, similar peers, among first responders. I'm not saying we're a first responder, but it'd be nice to be respected by them.
Yeah.
So that being said, on behalf of myself, on my behalf of the unprofessional co-host to my right,
that's me,
Mr. TowManG, we thank you once again for listening. We cannot wait to see you again next week. For now, take care.
Toodles. How did you like that overarching story?